When we first purchased Reata, she already had white spots from an improperly fitting saddle. We bought a custom saddle from a big saddle making company, and although we did our best to get one with a mule tree that we were told would fit her, it wasn't the quality we had hoped for. It's never been all that comfortable for Jason, and this past summer, with Reata and Jason filming for Ty Evans and riding more than they have in the past, it became pretty apparent that her saddle doesn't fit her as well as we thought. Her white spots started to grow, and she even got a sore back after a long day. With a different pad and some shims, we mitigated the issue as much as possible, but that's just a short-term fix. We knew we needed to get her a totally custom saddle, from the tree on up. So today, we're going to take you along on that process. We get asked all the time what saddle to purchase for a mule, and unfortunately, it's not one saddle fits all situation. Mules vary so much, and the best way to get a saddle that truly fits your equine is to have one custom built. So if you've been wondering about that process, stay tuned. We're doing a deep dive into custom saddle fit for our mules today.
Hey guys, Jason here with Mountain Built. Today we're talking about mules, mule saddles, and how to find one that fits properly. So today we have a super special guest. Today we have Reed Veit from Reed Veit Saddlery over here in Billings, Montana. And he's going to show us how to get Reata set up with a good saddle that fits properly.
Hi, I'm Reed Veit with Reed Veit Saddlery. I'm here to talk to you guys about fitting your mule for a saddle tree and some discussion on saddles and fit here today. To start off, we have Jason's mule, Reata, here. She's a really nice built mule. She's got a pretty good wither here and a pretty good pocket. The pocket is the space behind the shoulder that kind of takes some shape there, and that's just right for your tree. Usually mules don't have it near as much as a horse does because they get that from the donkey. So there's two different things that we have to deal with mules that makes them hard to fit. Everyone loves to say, I have a hard to fit mule. Well, when you own mules, that's just kind of something that you have to deal with. You got to understand that they're not the same as a horse, and your gear won't transfer near as well. So, first of all, mules are what they call straight, which means they're lacking in shape and curvature here. Usually this way, not so much this way, but lengthwise down their body. And the second thing is they're generally steeper in the back than a regular quarter horse. So we have to take that into consideration as well. So right now I have a mule tree here, and the only thing that makes this a mule tree is the bars. Generally the shape of the bar this way to accommodate this shape on a mule, and the steepness here to accommodate the narrow loin on a mule. So we can thank the donkeys for all of that. So this is a pretty standard tree. The measurements on this tree is 4¼ inch hand hole and 90-degree bars. You can see that this tree is making contact with her. That is what you want. The more of your tree that can be touching them, the better. And of course, with your skirts under here and then your pad, any excess pressure that you may be worried about usually will be relieved if your tree isn't fitting too terrible. Here you can definitely see where her shoulder blade is and ends right there. So typically we'd want our saddle to be about 2 fingers behind the shoulder blade. But as we ride, it generally will move forward. So this is kind of where it comes to rest. As you can see, I can fit my fingertips down there. And that is due to the flare of your bar. Your bar isn't sticking straight out. It'll come out, it'll turn out a little bit, and you want that because you do not want your tree to dig into them like this. So if you have a bare tree and you set it on your mule, if it's clearing, that's good. You want that. And the same back here, you can see that these back bar tips are clearing her. That's what you want because we do not want to dig into her loin either. And of course, with your skirts and your sheepskin and your pad, your tree is going to end up being a little bit higher. So here I just have a piece of sidewalk chalk, and I'm just going to trace. In my opinion, I feel like this is where this tree is going to best ride on her. And I'm just going to make an outline on her back where this tree is sitting on her, just so that I can see what's going on and what I have to deal with here. I'm going to make a mark under the right where the cantle comes down. Maybe I should go here instead. So then we take that off and we have an outline of our tree bar. So here, now that I've got this tree bar outlined on her back, all I have, this is pretty simple, and this is a really easy way to do it at home, and generally it comes out pretty accurate. This is a piece of Romex wire. It's just 3 wires in a sheath. It bends easily, it's malleable, it can conform to the shape of your animal. So this piece is about 18 inches long, is about what you want to go with. I just fold it in half, just so I know where my center is. And the first measurement we want to take is right through the center of the front bar pad, right here in the front. So we'll take this and we'll bend it to old Reata. Make sure that that's sitting down on her pretty good, just like so. And that gives us this shape. So then we'll come over here on my nice uneven surface and we'll be careful not to change the shape of our wire here. And I've just got a piece of paper. Cardboard will work. The only problem with cardboard is you've got to figure out how to get it in the mail. And we'll just trace the outline of this wire on the bottom side, the side that was touching her, and we'll get that. That is called your A measurement. We're going to take 4 measurements here. We're going to take an A, a B, and a C, and then we're going to take a rock measurement on this mule here so that we can figure out. Fitting animals is like pieces to a puzzle. They've all just kind of got to come together, and then you've got an entire picture. So that's our A measurement. We're going to skip one. We're going to go to our C measurement, which is right behind the cantle, right underneath where the cantle rides on this saddle tree. So this gives us our C measurement. I am going to make a mark on the center of my C measurement just so that my tree maker can have a better understanding what halfway is, if that makes sense. Now the B measurement is about halfway in between them, if you can imagine that. We got an A, B, and a C measurement here. And once again, with the straightness of a mule and lack of shape here, the C and the B measurement are not going to be very far apart on this particular mule. Some mules they may, some mules they may not. But all we need here, if you can see my wire is leaving right here, don't get worried because it's below the tree bar. So it's touching her where we want it to touch her, from right here all the way over to the other side. So this gives us our B position. So if we take our B measurement and lay it over our C pattern, we're really not far off at all. Pretty well the same. But that could be a special case for this mule, so if you're doing this at home, the B measurement is still important to get. Next, and finally, we're going to get the rock measurement of this mule. And oftentimes, the straightest horse bar out there is still has too much rock in it for the general mule. So don't be surprised if you lay your wire up here, and you can see that I have that running right out the center of my bar pad in the back. My chalk is getting faded, and pretty much right out the tip of my front bar. And it's touching her all the way down here. And we get it out, and it's pretty well straight. Not very much shape at all. This is the front, this is the back. So then we will take this. Careful not to fumble over your fingers while you're doing this. The tree maker will know if there's a great big bump in this line, that unless you tell him my mule has a great big bump in their back, they'll know that you just made a mistake with your pen. But it's easier to tell. Now this is important. We need to note which side here is the front of this rock measurement, especially with the mules, because they could just be straight line, and that can be hard for your tree maker and yourself to denote what end is which. So now we have our rock, and we have our A, B, and C positions outlined and marked down on this paper. Now you could take this, if you're doing this at home, and fold this up and put it in an envelope and ship it to your saddle maker or your tree maker. They should be able to help you get it figured out to get a tree that should fit your mule pretty darn well. So those are the 4 main measurements that we've got to take on here. Now these here is what's called the Dennis Lane card system. These were come up with by a guy named Dennis Lane, who is a saddle tree maker in New Zealand. And I took a copy of them off of another saddle tree shop. If you were to order a set of these, and I'm not sure you can get them anymore, they're a white corrugated cardboard, a sturdy cardboard. So I just took their cardboard and marked it out on this little bit of plywood and cut it out, so they should work pretty much the same. So as you can see here, these are denoted A, B, and C to denote which position you're looking at here. And there's different shapes, narrower and broader and all that marked out on them. So you could come up, put this on there, and rotate your shapes through the center of your bar pad marks. This D9 right here looks like it fits her pretty well, but we'll still look through. D8 is still fairly good. It certainly could work. Move it a little bit further back and it sits on her pretty well. You're looking for contact here. You don't want a whole lot of space between the animal and your card. So like this D6 is way too steep and narrow for this mule. D5, too steep and narrow. D4, steeper yet. That's a D7. Sits down on her, but is still not quite perfect. There, it's sitting fairly good, but I'm not sure. I'm kind of leaning towards the D7 and the D8. Then this, you can see that's not going to fit her, that's not going to fit her, that's not going to fit her, and that's not going to fit her either. So that kind of narrows it down. But what your saddle maker will do, if he doesn't have a set of these cards, he'll figure it out with a protractor, an angle, or he'll send it to his tree maker. And if they don't have the Dennis Lane card system, they might have something similar that works with their measurements and their way of building trees. So here I'm kind of leaning towards so you can see I have in my childhood handwriting D9, D8, and D10 marked out on this. So here we've got the D9, and here we have the D8. And that D8 looks like it's sitting on her pretty darn good in my opinion. I'm gonna write that down, but I'm still gonna leave it to my tree maker to decide what he thinks is best off of that measurement. So we could come over here and get our old paper out again and set our D8 pattern over the top of that mark, and as you can see, it follows it pretty darn well. That's what they're gonna do if you send them this stuff. So A, D8 is what I'm gonna write on that one. Now put my A cards away. Next we'll go to the B measurement, which is the middle of the tree. Remember, A, B, and C positions. That D6 looks awful appealing to me right there. And the D7 is a little better yet. This would be kind of a toss-up between the D6 is a little bit narrower. Not too bad, but it's sitting on her pretty well. And the D7 is sitting on her pretty well right there too. But just for the sake of doing it, so here we have BS5, BS6, BS7, and BS4. Is that gonna fit her? No. Nope. 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 Here we have the B, D9, D8, and D10 measurements. Is that gonna fit her? No, sir. Is that gonna fit her? No, sir. You're riding right on the spine. Is that gonna fit her? Not terrible. But we're right back to the D6 and the D7. That best one there was this D8. So we're somewhere between a D8 and a D7 on this mule for the B position. And the C measurement could go way different since this is a mule. That's not going to fit her. That's not going to fit her. And that's not going to fit her either. I've got our D6. That looks pretty good. Fairly good here. Pretty good there. Is that going to fit her? No. Is that gonna fit her? No. No again. No again. Once again, we're looking for contact all the way across this shape. That D6 seems to sit on her pretty well. So if the B is a D8 and the back is a D6, we're pretty close. The D5 is not as well as I would like it to be. The D4 is a little steeper yet. And the D7 is a little bit broader. There. I don't really love that. So I'm gonna call this C position the D6 position. There.
So Reed, while you're writing that down, is it important to fit your animal while they're like an average size? Like if they're a little skinny, like in the fall because they've been in the mountains all year, if they're fat in the spring from sitting around all winter?
That could make a difference.
It could.
It could make a difference. You'd like to measure them when they're in pretty good shape. Not too skinny and not too fat. Now if your mule stays fat all year round, just even if you ride them 100 miles a day and they are still fat, then that just kind of tells you that their body shape isn't going to change too drastically. But when you get a mule and they're 2 years old and they're like riding a playing card because they're so narrow, that might not be the best time to fit them for a tree just because they're going to grow. It seems to be the best time to fit them for a tree is sometime between when they're 3 and 6 years old, depending on your animal. So this last measurement, I only have the rock patterns for horse bars. My saddle maker has a specific pattern that he uses for mules, so it's even straighter than this contour here. So if I had to make a wild guess, I would say that she's going to get a mule rock, but this is the only one that I have. This is the straightest. This is an R3. R stands for rock. So here I'm putting it right through the center of my back bar pad, right there. And just right up along. You want it about 2 inches down from their spine when you're measuring this. And that doesn't look too terrible. If you go like this, like a teeter-totter, if it moves a whole bunch, then it's not what you want, because you'll be putting all your pressure right here and your tree will teeter back and forth. If you rope, if you're going downhill, if you're going uphill, your tree is going to be hitting them one way or the other. And just to give you a visual, this is an R6. This is a fairly standard horse rock. Like I said before, horses have quite a bit more shape to them than a mule does. You can see how that rock, that contour, is like a teeter-totter there. That's not what we want. So I would guess that this is somewhere between an R3 and a mule rock on a regular saddle, on a saddle tree to the normal saddle maker and tree maker. So usually I just leave all that up to the experts, but this is what I know how to do, and there you have it. Thanks for listening.
All right, Reed, now that we know how to fit a saddle to a mule, how do we figure out what size seat we need?
Well, if you have a saddle that you're already riding in, what I usually like to do is when you sit in the seat, if you take your fist like this and turn it sideways and set it right here at your hip, and if that is about the distance between your hip and your swell or your fork of your saddle, that's usually just about right. Is usually what I go off of. But most people already have a saddle that they're riding and they like the size, or they're used to the size, and that's what they want, and that's just kind of what I tell them to go with. How you measure a saddle seat is you take a tape from the base of the horn up here to just ahead of your stitching. If you have a Cheyenne roll like this where it lays over, you measure to right here and there, and that'll give you your seat size is this distance here. So some people go from here back, and that can change a little bit depending on how much leather is right here, but always to just ahead of your stitching. And if you have a straight up bind where your cantle stands straight up like this, you just measure from there to the edge of your cantle bind.
Thank you guys for watching. Reed makes some quality gear that it's built to last. We can't wait to get a saddle that's custom built by Reed for Reata. We hope you found this helpful when it comes to fitting a saddle to your mule. We will share Reata's custom saddle once it's all finished. If you want to reach out to Reed Veit, you can do so through Instagram or Facebook. His links are in the description below. And if you like this type of content, don't forget to subscribe to watch more.